CNN, riots in the UK, the worst seen in years after a stabbing. But the real question is, what is the real motivation behind this? While the media is claiming that it's all misinformation, that they're blaming a UK natural born citizen, and they're claiming it's asylum seekers, that's what they call it, asylum seekers, they're misleading you as they always do. There's a real reason to what's going on. If you want to understand the sentiment and the reason behind mass rioting, you can't just trust the corporate press. They ain't never going to tell you. When it comes to George Floyd, did they tell you the truth? No, they lied. When it comes to what's happening right now in the UK with these riots, are they telling you the truth? No, they are lying. George Floyd, what happened? A guy who was chewing on a speedball behind the wheel of a car was being arrested for it. He resisted, demanded to be held on the ground. Derek Chauvin shows up after this has already started, kneels on his back and neck area. I try to be careful because I don't really know. It's hard to say for sure. It's on his neck and back a little bit. George Floyd dies. He had a lethal dose of fentanyl in his system and other drugs, norfentanyl, THC. He was chewing on a speedball. What do you expect? They blame Derek Chauvin. He's convicted. We get riots. That's the story. People are upset that he died. They blame Derek Chauvin. Medical report said Chauvin compressing the neck caused this. Another autopsy said it was not the case. You believe what you want to believe. What's happening in the UK right now? They're claiming that after the stabbing of 3 young girls, that people on the right, namely they're lying about Tommy Robinson, stoked the flames of riots, directed them. Mind you, Tommy Robinson is on vacation and he's posting on X for sure. So they're trying to blame him for this. But they're claiming it's misinformation. The guy who stabbed these girls was not an immigrant. That's not true. Hold on there a minute. This was the Taylor Swift dance class stabbing where she actually responded. And the guy was the child of migrants. It has something perhaps to do with Rwandan genocide mentality. Don't know for sure. But the anger here is, I'll tell you, it's the straw on the camel's back. It appears, as an American, on the surface, from what I've read and asked my friends about, who are British, what's currently going on, as well as the statements from people like Carl Benjamin and Tommy Robinson, the anger is when these groups of Muslims, and I'm not saying all Muslims, I'm saying there are literal groups of Muslim men that have been arrested for being part of grooming gangs, and rapes have skyrocketed. These people are not being held to account. You've got a video of Keir Starmer basically saying the George Floyd riots are, he's saying it with empathy and care for why people are angry. But then when the British natives riot, it's, oh, you're awful, you're bad. So the sentiment among the individuals rioting is second-class citizens. They don't want to be second class. They're tired of inequality. A hotel that was hosting migrants. I don't know. I don't want to say illegal immigrants because I'm probably wrong. They call them asylum seekers in the UK, but I don't believe that's the right way to say it either. Set on fire. And the reason is, well, the media will tell you it's because they hate migrants and they're racist. And you'll hear from other parts that actually this is where people have been attacking women. But let's start with this. With all that context and all that being said, this is a major, massive story. Let's read the news. Rioters attack hotels used to house asylum seekers amid worst UK disorder in years. Oh, asylum seekers. You know, look, if it's anything like the US, we know they're lying when they say asylum seekers. Rioters set fire in broken hotels used to shelter asylum seekers in northern England on Sunday as the country grapples with the worst social unrest it has seen in years. The violence was triggered by the stabbing of 3 young girls in Southport, northwest England earlier this week. The far right has seized on and spread a wave of disinformation, including false claims the attacker was an immigrant, to mobilize anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant protests. Police say the suspect was born in Britain. You see how they lie. Here's the real story. The child of immigrants, probably not Muslim, attacked young girls. And the concern of many of these British individuals, I'm not talking about the rioters. I'm saying if you go to the pundits, they will tell you, you have incompatible cultures being imported into the UK. Yes, this man, I believe he was 17 years old, was born in the UK to migrant parents and does not hold British values. So when he attacks 3 young girls, killing them, I believe they were killed. Let's make sure I want to get the details right because I'm not as big of well-versed on UK politics. Yes. So 3 girls, they were stabbed and killed. It's what we hear similarly with Sweden. And I heard this back in 2017 when I was on the ground in Sweden. Many of the individuals that were rioting and causing violence were Swedish, born in Sweden. I don't know that they actually have birthrights. I don't know that they do. But these are people born in Sweden. But they came from a culture that was very different. Whether you want to call that incompatible or otherwise, whatever. The fact is, this young man murdered 3 young girls. He did not like what they did. He did not view the world. They viewed the world. And this leads to anger. Footage geolocated by CNN shows protesters on Sunday vandalizing and setting ablaze 2 Holiday Inns in northern England. One in Tamworth, which had previously been criticized by a local politician for housing asylum seekers, and another in Rotherham. In Tamworth, protesters threw projectiles, smashed windows, and started fires, injuring 1 police officer, according to local authorities. Meanwhile, in Rotherham, protesters threw wooden planks, used fire extinguishers against officers, set fire to objects near the hotel, and smashed windows to gain entry to the building. Okay, let me slow down. I'm not the expert on this. I recommend you guys follow the Lotus Eaters podcast, Carl Benjamin and the crew. This is their territory. They know it infinitely better than I do. I don't have all the details, and I'm not. You go watch Carl Benjamin, you watch Lotus Eaters, and they're going to basically break down for you why we're seeing these riots. Ian Miles Chong has this video. The Holiday Inn in Tamworth, one of the hotels housing migrants in the UK, has been set on fire as police stand back. And then let's see, we have a bit more. So this is Media Lies. I want to get to this is absolutely wild. Look at this. Andy No posting. Middlesbrough, North Yorkshire, England. A mob of the Muslim patrol carry melee weapons as they assault white people in the streets who are accused of being linked to the earlier anti-mass migration protest. The clashes have led to cars being set on fire and buildings smashed up. Here's my general understanding. You've got this stabbing. Taylor Swift actually spoke up on this one. In response to this, protesters march. In response to the protests, which there was some violence, Muslim groups come out to protest, to fight violently against many of these white individuals. So let me see if, so did I already have that one pulled up? I'll pull that one for a second. I got to sort through this stuff. You've got a huge mob descending in Bolton City Center. I mean, things are getting absolutely nuts in here. Tommy Robinson's statement. I should have lined these up a little bit better. Here we go. Middlesbrough earlier, a 70-year-old man went outside his local pub for a smoke and was violently attacked by a mob of armed Muslims. Apparently sustained a stab wound, though I can't confirm that. Shocking scenes. So what we're seeing in response to the protests, Muslim groups have gone out countering with violence, which has led to even greater riots. The Hodge twins tweeted this. This is what is happening in the UK right now. Government opens the borders and lets in illegal aliens. Illegals start committing violent crime, murder, rape, etc. in British communities. Government does nothing to stop the criminal illegals. British citizens take matters into their own hands and attack the illegals because our government won't do anything. Government declares British citizens that attack illegals are domestic terrorists and start raiding their homes and arresting them for protecting their communities. Sound familiar? Coming soon to the U.S. Now, here's a video of what they're calling two-tier Keir. This is a video, and they could have done it better. They play both videos at the exact same time, which it's not so easy to understand. But basically on the left, it says when minorities riot, and on the right, when British whites riot.
Be in no doubt,
I was shocked.
Those that have participated in this violence,
the killing of George Floyd,
will face the full
and the
force
response
of the law.
President Trump.
The police
and the US
will be making arrests.
To the peaceful
individuals will be
to
held
people
on
rightly
remand.
Demanding justice.
Charges will follow,
been an affront to
and
humanity.
convictions will
The last
follow.
week has shone a
I
spotlight
guarantee
on the racism,
you will regret taking part in this disorder,
and injustice
whether directly
experienced
or
by
those
those
whipping
from
up
black
this
and
action
minority ethnic
online
communities
and then
in the
running
US,
away themselves.
in the UK,
This is not
across the
protest.
world.
It is
Martin
organised,
Luther King
violent
said,
thuggery.
injustice anywhere
and it has no
is a
place
threat to justice.
on our
So there you basically go. I mean, it is frustrating that it's a great video. I'd like to actually see them both, but not overlapping each other, which is a bit frustrating. Probably could find it. I don't know. This is the one that I was able to see. And basically on the left, he's saying, I was shocked and angered by the killing of George Floyd. And this is at the George Floyd riots, which were for some reason happening in Europe. And then in the UK, he says, you will regret this. So I reached out to Carl Benjamin. I asked him exactly what's going on. He basically is saying that Starmer is saying that he's going to protect the Muslim migrants and he's going to oppress the right. The riots are still ongoing. This is absolutely wild to see all this stuff happening. I got to tell you. Here's the report from The Independent, which, of course, you'll find very humorous. Tommy Robinson stokes far-right riots on social media from outside the UK. They won't leave this guy alone. Dude, Tommy Robinson has an open invite to come on Timcast IRL, or probably better yet, the Culture War. And maybe what we need to do with Tommy is make an exception and do a Culture War episode with him remotely. Why? He can't come to the U.S. We have actually discussed internally, how can we get to Europe to actually meet up with Tommy to discuss what's going on? Not possible, unfortunately. With the scheduling, I'd be waking up at 2 a.m. to try and, if I was in Europe and then doing IRL from Europe, it's just, we can't do it. It just can't be done. Not, I don't know, maybe if we had more money and we had the resources to get like a UK studio set up, but timing matters and it would be a ridiculous schedule. But if there's one person I'd absolutely love to have on the Culture War more than anybody else, it'd definitely be Tommy Robinson. They have vilified this guy. They have lied about this guy. It is insane how much they lie about this guy, because I watch his videos. I hear what he has to say, and then they lie about him. And it is the weirdest thing imaginable. It's evil. It's corrupt. Now, I talked to the Lotus Eaters, Carl Benjamin. Check out the Culture War podcast on Tenet Media on YouTube. We did an episode on liberalism. The reason I recommend this, talking about post-liberalism and moral philosophy, absolutely fantastic conversation. But the subject of Tommy Robinson came up, and Carl Benjamin notes that there are other prominent mainstream politicians that say the exact same thing as Tommy, and there's no problem. But Tommy Robinson represents the working class. He speaks like he's working class. He is trusted by the working class, and that him speaking up and calling out mass migration and crime would actually rally people. So, as of right now, let me see what we have here. TheTimes.com. I'm on holiday, not on the run, says Tommy Robinson. Apparently, the story was that he fled the country, and Tommy's like, dude, I'm on vacation with my family. I'll give you the breakdown. Tommy Robinson is upset over the crime. He's certainly tweeting quite a bit about it. He's allowed to. But the reason why I have this video pulled up, I want to play this clip for you right away before we read what The Independent has to say about Tommy Robinson.
They are building me up as the face of violence, even though every video I've made, they've had 2 million, 3 million, 4 million views. Each time I've talked to protesters going out on the streets, I've appealed for calm, said that please don't commit violence. Do not attack individual police officers, because even though the police are oppressing us, we in Britain have been oppressed for decades by our own police force. They treat us totally different to how they treat the Muslim community, and the whole country and the whole world now know it. Yeah. So their option is to build me up as the face of it. All the riots are going on, all the trouble's going on, and then they want me to be the fool guy. All I've done is act as a journalist, and as a responsible journalist, I investigate everything I put out. I appealed for calm in all these demonstrations. And the last 2 events I've held, Alex, have had over 130,000 people involved and no arrests, no violence, no trouble, because we planned them, okay? What you're seeing now is not planned. It's like a rudderless ship. It is chaos in every town and city. And what Starmer has done is pour petrol on the fire. They're talking about me stoking up. They're saying I'm stoking up. All I'm sharing is what's happening in each town and city and explaining why the British public are angry and giving them the reason why they're doing it. And
I would say mostly true, like 99%. He's also sharing sentiment from individuals and how they feel on top of that. Suffice it to say, Tommy Robinson is not stoking violence. He is sharing what's going on, and people are upset about what's going on. So I guess the only reason I'm saying like 99% true is like, obviously highlighting the sentiment of people contributes to the greater narrative. I don't blame Tommy for that. And I don't mean to imply that he's lying or anything like that. It's like, I don't know. I mean, it's probably unfair to say. I don't see him as having anything to do with this just because he's posting that there's injustice and there's bad things. What they're trying to claim is by simply saying, here's how people feel and here's what's happening, he's fanning the flames, he's stoking the fire. That is absolutely unfair.
Talking about it whilst condemning the violence at the same time. Now, what Keir Starmer's done and what the government's policy is failed to listen. They could have come out and said, like they done with Black Lives Matter, okay? They could have come out and said, we fully understand your fears. We understand your anger. We need to work together as a country to solve this. They didn't. They come out, they arrested nans, they arrested mums, they beat and threw English women on the floor. They tried to crush anyone standing up to talk about fears for their children. That's what they done. And they labelled every single person involved in any of these protests as far right.
So also shout out to Alex Jones for hosting an interview with Tommy Robinson. It's a lot longer. He's got it posted on X if you want to watch the full breakdown, which Tommy's going to give you a much better breakdown than I can give you here on this short news show. The story kicking everything off is this one. I have this from E! Online. 17-year-old boy charged with murder of 3 kids after stabbing at Taylor Swift-themed event in England. Alex Ruda Cubana, 17, has been charged with murder after 3 girls died and several other people were injured in a stabbing at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class in England. We have this from The Independent. They say Tommy Robinson has been accused of stoking far-right riots following the Southport knife attack from afar after he left the UK last week. The High Court was told on Monday that anti-Islam activists whose real name, and they always do this, I don't need to, is Tommy Robinson, had left the country after being released on unconditional bail following his arrest in Kent in the previous weekend. A fresh warrant was issued for the English Defence League founder's arrest after he did not attend a scheduled hearing in a contempt court case. But in the days since, Robinson has been regularly posting with the ongoing wave of disorder on social media. The 41-year-old has been publishing running commentary and videos documenting the riots, describing the disorder as a result of legitimate concerns and calling for mass deportations. It's just absolutely fascinating that you could go online and be like, a thing is happening, here's a solution. And they're like, it's your fault people are violent, especially when he's saying, don't be violent. Now, I got to tell you, Tommy, I've seen the posts. I think if Tommy goes back to the UK, they're going to lock him up forever. And they already tortured this guy. It is psychotic and terrifying what they have done to this guy. There was a period where he was in prison. He wasn't being fed properly. He came out. He lost a bunch of weight. Absolutely terrifying. If he goes back to the UK, I'd say game over for him. Game over. The Times says Tommy Robinson has denied claims he fled the UK after a high court judge issued a warrant for his arrest. Robinson, and they always do this, whose real name is, because they want to dox him. They want you to try and find out where his family is. They posted where his family was, even though he was on vacation. They hate this guy, man. They say he told CNN News 18, an Indian language news channel, that he adopted the pseudonym Tommy Robinson because people wanted to murder him. So basically, he's denying having fled. A High Court judge issued an arrest warrant for Robinson last month, and he's due to attend a full contempt hearing in London. The case is around an alleged breach of an injunction forbidding him from repeating lies about Jamal Hijazi, a teenage Syrian refugee, in 2018. In 2021, Hijazi won $100,000 in damages after a defamation case against Robinson, who had falsely accused him of attacking other pupils at school. However, the activist repeated the claims in a film, which he recently broadcast at a mass rally of his followers in Trafalgar Square in London. Robinson said, I haven't fled the UK. I'm on holiday with my children. That was planned. I never received any court documentation summoning me to court. I am not on bail to attend court. There was a process the court has to go to. The process is not to give information to far-left organizations. Robinson's exact whereabouts are unclear, and I don't need to read his location. That's insane. It's Summer of Love UK edition, I guess. I don't fear exactly what's happening in the UK happening in the United States because we're much bigger than the UK. And I certainly see similar sentiment, though. But it'll be different. It'll be very different. With London, 37% of London is native-born British. And, if what's interesting is we're getting to this point where this man who murdered these 3 young girls, they're saying they leave this stuff out. They leave this stuff out, like the UK. Police say the suspect was born in Britain. They don't tell you that he was the child of migrants, and that is a factor that is being considered by many of these people who are rioting or who are upset about what's going on in this country. I went to Sweden in 2017. Many of you watching may have seen this. Many of you may have not. They called it the Summer of Love. I'm sorry. It wasn't the Summer of Love. It was the no-go zones. The Summer of Love was 2020. I don't know why I made that mistake. It was the no-go zones. It was Last Night in Sweden. That's what it was called. Last Night in Sweden. And so I went there. We were getting reports that there was mass violence, cars were being burned, rioters, and it was these Muslim protesters, these Muslim migrants. Not true. What it turns out, why people were upset, why the sentiment had come to Sweden, is that you had the children of migrants from Somalia. They had come to Sweden a long time ago. And like what we're seeing with the UK, this is important. Small country, small population, large urban center, and the government allowed mass migration into hyper-concentrated areas. In Sweden, you have a massive migrant population in Malmö. You had a massive migrant population in Stockholm and even in Södertälje. And I'm forgetting the name of the other city. I'm forgetting. Let me pull this up because this one's actually important because we went to all of these cities. And let's pull up the map here. I can't believe I'm forgetting the name. It's an obvious name. I can't. Where is it? I don't know enough about Sweden. What's the name of that city? We went to Uppsala. Yeah. And maybe it was Uppsala. I think that's where it might have been. I thought it was a different name. But we went there. And we had found that at all of these places, the crime that was being experienced was not coming from native-born Swedes of Swedish descent. It was coming from the children of migrants. So when videos would come out showing someone who was clearly not native-born Swedish because they were not ethnically Swedish, the videos would come out and say migrants because the implication was these people were not from Sweden. What we learned, much of the violence, the overwhelming majority, from protests, rioting, anti-police behavior was the children of Somali migrants. When the families had moved to Sweden in the 90s, they placed them in city centers and created enclaves. They admitted this was a problem. When I was there, they said the new program is to place migrants in spread out and not let them choose where to go so that they can integrate more properly and that they're not just hyper concentrated. In Rinkeby and Rosengård and Rinkeby were two areas which were good examples of this. When we went to, I think it was Rinkeby, we were actually told by police we would be attacked if we did not leave immediately. The media then lied about everything. The police then lied about everything, and we filmed it happening. They followed us out to our car. They told us they would. I called it an escort. They denied it was an escort. And I'm like, well, call it whatever you want. The police warned us that if we stayed, they could start attacking us, and the cops will be unable to stop 50 people throwing stones. I said, should we leave? And they said, yes. And then I said, will you follow us out? They said, yes. Okay. Filmed them following me out. The media then reported it never happened. I lied, and and it was a coincidence. Yeah. Here's the reality. These young men did not view themselves as Swedish, did not have any connection to Swedish culture or history, and so the police did not represent them. They did not feel the police were part of their community, and so they just looked at them as guys with guns coming to their house. They didn't tolerate it. That is very much what you see happening here. In the UK, in London, 37% native British are the minority to an extreme degree in their own capital city. So you end up with this degree of violence and people don't want to be there. And then because it's a majority minority, which sounds paradoxical, the government is going to defend the larger bloc because they will. This is power politics, my friends. Please understand, and I hope you get this because it happens in America too. When you have a riot outside someone's house, a protest outside someone's house, Black Lives Matter, for example, because this happened, the police are going to show up and they're going to say, do we go to war with the rioters, which we can't handle, or do we just arrest the innocent guy they're protesting? They will arrest the innocent guy. That's you. If you are in your home and you put up a sign saying F Black Lives Matter, and a Gadsden flag, and they show up to your house protesting, there's a greater chance the police will arrest you in your own home. Why? Power politics is all that matters. The police are going to say, look, if we try to stop this riot, we'll get more riots. If we arrest these people, they'll film it, they'll make propaganda, more people will riot. If we arrest the homeowner, other homeowners will sit down and shut up and cower. And that's the reality of everything everywhere in the world. So in London, in the UK, as you get these violent populations, I'm not talking about all migrants being violent. I'm saying when you get a population of people, however small it may be, maybe 500, maybe 1,000, whatever. I'm saying when you get groups that are willing to engage in violence, The police say, if we go and arrest these gangs, you'll get more gangs. So don't do it. Tell them we're sorry and ask them to leave us alone. But you know what? They don't believe that these riots that are going on right now will persist. They believe the white Natish-born English will back down and will stop. And when they do, they will go and arrest them all and make an example. But when it is the more violent, when it's the other groups that are more violent, why? Because in many places in the UK, the native population is smaller. So the question is this. If we allow the white British to riot in these places, because it's not all happening in London, what will happen? These minority groups will also begin rioting and we can't stop it. What if we arrest the minority groups? Then you're going to see places like London, which is 63% non-native born British, have a higher propensity for riots because the majority population will not tolerate being arrested for protesting and rioting over what they believe in. So they target the minorities. It is a cost-benefit analysis. And that's what happens with multiculturalism when you don't have a homogenized culture. And there are two distinct worldviews at odds with each other. That can and will happen in the United States. I will stress, I'm not an expert on UK politics. I recommend you watch the interview from Alex Jones and Tommy Robinson. I think, with all due respect to Tommy, Carl Benjamin's probably the better source that I would choose. No disrespect. Carl's a friend. He gives nice, calm, reasoned, passionate rhetoric, probably completely aligned with what Tommy Robinson is saying. So, I recommend watching you both. I'm just saying, Tommy, sorry. I lean towards Carl, but with all due respect, the media is lying about what Tommy is saying, and I have tremendous respect for Tommy. And it's ridiculous lies. They're going to call him a white supremacist, and I tell you what really pisses me off, and the reason why I like Tommy, because when I've seen what he said, I'm like, this guy's not a racist. This guy's not a white supremacist. This guy's not talking about any of that stuff. This guy's not anti-Muslim. He's anti-violence. He's anti-fundamentalist. He's actually saying a lot of reasoned, normal things, but they hate him and they torture him. It's nuts. Look, I'm not going to pretend to be a big fan of Tommy. I don't know him. I don't follow his work. I'm just saying from the stuff I've seen, like the video with Alex, be peaceful. Please don't engage in violence. I'm like, yeah, what's he doing wrong? But I'll wrap this segment up there. There's still more to come because this is ongoing. So we'll have more tonight. Timcast IRL. In the meantime, the next segment will be coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. 4 p.m. on this channel. This one's going to be a doozy with RFK Jr.'s weird story. Stick around. Smash the like button. Follow me on X at Timcast and Instagram at Timcast. And we'll see you all then. For everybody else watching live, let's go to Super Chats.